Hi everyone, and welcome to another video of Altium Designer Basics tutorial. And in this video we're going to get to know more about the Altium Designer in Schematic and PCB shortcuts and menus. So to start with, I opened an Altium Designer project that we previously made, and now we're going to take a look into the Schematic and PCB editor, because before getting to do any projects, it's better to know what tools we have and what Altium Designer is actually providing us. So let's begin with this. Like all standard softwares, there's a file menu here by which you can create new other files and save your files, things like this. So if you want to add something new, a new project, you come to File and New, and you create a project similar to many other project-based softwares. And here you have Schematic, which is like this usual schematic. You have PCB, which is the PCB. You have Active BOM that we're going to talk about later. Bill of Material, or BOM, is a file that you put the part number and the details of all the components in your project. You have the Draftsman's document, which is actually, if it's letting us, sorry. So the Draftsman's document, which is a document specifically designed in Altium to help you with the dimensions. And if you want to know the dimensions, the stack ups and things like this, so you use a Draftsman document. CAM document is for production. It's again an Altium Designer specific file. For other production files, we'll take a look at files like Gerber files, but for now it's good to know. An output job and component and other things here. So I think this component is for when you're using your libraries on a server. Now let's get to the more important thing, which is a library. Sometimes, and I'm going to explain it in detail in another video, you need to create your own libraries, and that's the place that you need to come. In different versions of the Altium, you have different library files, but in different, not different library files, actually you have this library in different menus or in different locations, but here it's in the new. So when you want to create an integrated library, all you have to do is pressing integrated library and it becomes like another project. But you see that the suffix is libpkg, different to prjpcb, which is a project PCB. So this is another type of project you can make. And by doing a right click and adding new object, you can add schematic library or PCB library. So if you want to create a normal library, usually add at least these two, PCB library and the schematic library, because every component has a schematic part that you make and also a PCB part with a footprint that you need to make as well to make a working component, because you put the component in the schematic, you connect all the pins, and then you need to bring it into PCB. And in reality, this PCB is nothing but a footprint with or without any 3D view. So we go back to this project part. So this is also good to know about it. For now, I'm going to save it somewhere, maybe on desktop in our Embedded Dragon. So I save the project also here. An integrated library so that we have it for later use. Now it's saved. Once you do a change to a library, let's say I create a component here, I'm just doing it to show you, there's a star here that shows it needs to be saved. There are changes that are not saved, so you can do it either by FS, which is the traditional Altium short key for saving, or Control S, the same like in other softwares. In the past we didn't have Control S, but now we have FS. So getting back to the menus, after new we have also mixed signal simulation and scripts. Sometimes there are some scripts, for example the one that creates logo and things. So I'm not going to cover it now, but you can use them, or sometimes you can write your own scripts if you need to. Okay, these are again the same things: open projects, open project group, save, save as, and we come to the import and export. These import and export are sometimes used if you want to import a specific type of file, like DWG or DFX file, or a file from another manufacturer as a PCB design software. For example, if you press wizard, import wizard, then a new menu pops up, and in this you can go through the steps and choose the software that you have, let's say Allegro Design or Eagle Project Design or things like this, and you can import them here. So you go through the process and you choose them and things like this, and then you can have them here. This is useful sometimes because you run into projects that are just in Eagle or Allegro or OrCAD and you want to import them in Altium and use the libraries. So this is what you do. You also have a print view. Let me go back to schematic editor. I think we have more things here. Yeah, this is the DXF and DWG files. These are very famous vector type files that can be used specifically in the PCB design sometimes, and also other things like this. And import wizard the same, and you have here a smart print. The smart print is one of the very interesting and nice features of Altium. It enables you to print your schematic and PCB as a PDF file and have it. So if you just let me go back. Oh, sorry, I did finish. This is not a big deal, but sometimes it takes a bit of time. And you have it here. Since our schematic is empty, it's just showing the schematic. I just wanted to show you that this feature can be also called with FM, as you see, F for file and M for smart, so it pops up. When you're designing, it's very good that you use these shortcuts, because in big projects that you need to spend a lot of time designing, they will save you a lot of time. So instead of, for example, coming here with the mouse, file, and F smart, which takes some seconds, you can just press very fast FS and FM, sorry, and it comes up. So then you can go through all the steps and include the PCB file. You can also have the bill of material and things like this. You can also include the holes in the PCB if you want to print it, if you want to mirror it, or things like this. And then you want it in color, you want it in monochrome or grayscale, or for the PCB the same, you want it in color or grayscale, and the resolution and things like this. And at the end you can just print it and you'll have it. And it usually, once the print is over, a PDF software that you have will open it. Okay, so this is the first one. One nice other thing is the recent documents and recent projects, so that you can go and open them instantly without the need of going and searching for them sometimes, which might be far away somewhere in your computer. So it's a big help. Now we come to the edit, and this edit is the same, but one very nice feature of edit here is the smart paste. So maybe it's not bad if I play some components and also show you how to use them. Let's say we want to design a very simple project. I have these two are the miscellaneous devices, and miscellaneous connectors are the default libraries of Altium that you can use. And I want to use this NPN transistor in my schematic, so I double clicked it and it's now here, so I can put it. So this was the component okay, one is also there. This is the component menu that you can open, actually component tab. Another way to open this is by coming here and pressing this. It's just place part. so it shows up. Or you can press PP, it comes up again, and you can have it. I think you can also remove it from here and somehow place it somewhere else, but this is best to be here, and it's best to put it on top, so it's here. So for moving in the editor, if you right click and press that and then move your mouse, you can move across the sheet, so by right clicking and moving. So if you want to select the components, the same as we do in all softwares, but there's a difference between this in Altium and it was since the version 18, that if you come from left to right for selecting the components, you have to cover them completely like this. But if you want to select them from right to left, then you just need to touch them and they will be selected, and it's a useful feature both in PCB and schematic design. So for zooming, you have some options. You can either use control and the wheel of your mouse to move forward and backward, or you can use also page up and page down if you have it on your keyboard. In my keyboard it's not, I need to press FN, but it's also good to use them. So this is also for zooming. Another way is by pressing control and right clicking. So I press control, and by right clicking and moving my mouse, I can zoom in and zoom out. Okay, so now we have these two components, and let's say we want to make a very simple amplifier circuit with them. So we come to this again with place part, and we look for resistor. You can write here resistor, and we find this resistor. So we can here, before placing it, it's good that we see also the model to see what is actually there. So it's an axial PCB, so I just axial resistor, sorry. So if we want to have a double stage amplifier here, very simple one. And then we want to connect the collector of this. Okay. Before connecting, how do we place wires? Either you can come here, place wire, and then you can connect them by doing left click and then creating the wire. But when the wire can be connected, as you see, the color is different. So if you just want to place wire here, as you see, this cross color is gray, but once it is on the pin, the side of the pin which is connected, it becomes blue, and it shows you're doing the right connection. So I move my component a bit up and place wire, and it's the short key is PW, P and W for wire. So I place wire here and I connect them. And let's say I make these two values bigger, something like I open this one, so I make it 100K as an example. That's just a fake example. We're not doing any calculations or something like that. And then I with PW or place wire, I connect them, and as you see, when you have a branch, then this dot appears here. Okay, one thing that I want to show you now is that you can move your components without dragging the wires, and this is why I can do this, is because if I press TP and go to the preferences in the part of schematic and general and this graphical editing, there's a option called always drag. If I press it, and you see that if I press a component, then it will drag the wires, and this is not always good. It depends on you. My preference is that I don't use this option, so I remove this always drag. I will talk about the preferences menu also later, but for now it's enough to know. So And now again we connect here with wire. We need the same resistors here. It's a two-stage simple amplifier. And let's make it AC, so I come to components and place a capacitor. Let's see what we can find. Capacitor. Oh, nothing very good. So I have to clear this and write capacitor. We want a very simple small capacitor, something like SMD cap or similar thing. So it's the one with C0805. Let's choose it. And I put it here. So the DC signals will not pass. And I move my component. For moving the components, when you want to keep the wire and when the always drag is not selected in the preferences, you have to press Control so that you can move the wires. And so now we can place wire, connect here. Space changes the direction of movement. So if I want to place wire, for example, if I press space, as you see, the direction is reversed. So it's useful also in editing. And we need the ground point for our circuits, like all the circuits. I have intentionally made the color of ground red by just pressing here and making it red, but you can, I think the default color is gray, no, brown, so, but it's not a problem. And also I want to put a VCC here, but it is ground. So if I press tab, which is the normal menu for all the components, the tab is very important in Altium. So I make it this time bar, or you can make it power ground. No, bar I think is best. So I change it to plus 12 volts, for example. And we want to have another signal from here, and we want the AC part also to go, so it's not the right place. See, I couldn't make the connection. Be careful of this sign. This is where you have to connect your components, and I connect them, and here, and then we need to pin headers or connectors, so I come to miscellaneous connectors in the components. Connector, that's very big, so header. If you're not familiar with components, headers are kind of components for connecting two boards or components. And here's, let's see, we just want two. Header 2. So I either double click or right click and place header 2, and I bring it here. As you see, this is a very simple and straightforward design, and I'm doing this intentionally because I don't want you to be overwhelmed by all the details involved in using the Altium. So it's good to start not very detailed. So there's another thing that it's good to know, and it's that you can reverse the things by space. Again, if you're moving this object by pressing space, you can rotate it. And if you again have this object, for example, and you're moving it by pressing X, you can move it to the direction of X, or by pressing Y to the direction of Y. This is also something useful that we might use. So now our project is complete, but there's a problem, and it is that first we forgot to add the power supply, so I need another pin for that, which will connect our 12 and ground. So it's solved. But the problem is that all these components have the same name, R question mark or C question mark, so the Altium will not be able to distinguish between them. In order to solve this problem, we have this called let me find it. CC. Sorry. No. Annotation. Sorry. I'm sorry for the delay. It's annotation. So you can annotate schematic. It means you give names to them. And I here press update changes of the lists. It says 16 changes were made because you have 16 unnamed components. And then you say accept changes. And here you can validate and execute the changes. So now all your components have a name. Now if you compile your project by pressing CC, or here you can project PC project validate, or as I think the name is named in the new version is changed, validate the PCB. You see there aren't any errors, and you have messages here, and it says that the compilation was successful. Sometimes you have warnings, but warnings are not a problem. So now you can bring your components to the PCB editor, and we're gonna do this. But before that, it's good to go forward a bit and talk about them. So this was the place that I told you. It was placing the port, placing wire, PW, as you see. The first letter is marked PW, PO, PB. If you want to place a bus, we use them in the other project, so I don't want to make it complicated. We have harness, we have sheet entry, and things like this. We'll see they're used in projects that you have many sheets. If you want to place text, for example, I want to place a text here. It's say, and then I press tab to go to the menu. So I call it two-stage amplifier, and I can also change the color. Let's say I want to make it red, I want to make it bigger, and Consolas is my favorite font because the 0 and O are different in this, and sometimes so that we can also check it. It's 0 and it's O, as you see, so we can differentiate between them. So this is our two-stage amplifier, and it's all ready. In the design, we also have templates, project templates. I'm not going to talk about templates now. We'll have another video on them. And simulate the tools. So some of them here are more understandable if we go to the PCB now. So we don't need to know more here right now. So I press CC, or if you press CC, it will compile. And if you press DU, it will update your PCB. So D is design and U is update PCB. So it will come to this window, change order, engineering change order. You press validate. If all the components have the right footprint and connection, there will be all here marked with this sign. And then if you press execute, they will be all transferred to the PCB editor, as you see. So in the PCB editor here, we have all the components that have come here. So for example, for this one R4, if I press it and go back here, I see it is R4, and I'm able to do this because here we have this cross select mode activated, and that's why I can go back and forth and see, because in big projects you have 100, 200, 300 components in one PCB, and sometimes it's a good idea to know where this component actually comes from, and it is problematic, but now it's not a big deal. And this is called room. As you see, it is covering all the pages. When you have multiple pages or multiple sheets, we only have one sheet here, then you will have multiple rooms. So it's a way of somehow separating them that Altium uses. So now we're in the PCB editor, but before I go into placement, I want to show you something else. You see that here in our